Alright guys, here we go. We're back again, and in our last video we drew these two closed loops using the polyline tool. Also in the last video I promised that we were going to start drawing some curves, and that's a big deal, and I know we're all excited to get there, but before we do that, it's slowly dawning on me that I think we're going to need to talk about the layers palette first, because at least for me the layers palette is key as far as keeping ourselves organized, especially when we get into the situation where we have a little bit of work that we want to keep around, but we don't want it in our way as we do something different. So let's just talk about layers for a second and how they work in Rhino. Everything that you draw in Rhino ends up on the default layer to start, okay? Every layer has a different color assigned to it. So for instance, these lines are black because they are sitting on the default layer, which has a black color, okay? If I double click on that color and change that to, I don't know, something like this, right? The color of those lines will change. So you can tell what layer your line work is on depending on what color it is, okay? Hit undo to just undo that real quick. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to work on the default layer because that's how it works in Rhino. Most of the stuff goes there. But right now, I want to draw some curves here on the default layer, and I want to get this previous line work out of the way. So I'm going to put them onto another layer. I've got 5 extra layers that show up with a new file. If you don't have 5 extra layers, you can add new layers with this new layer button, just like that, okay? You can delete layers by selecting on a layer and hitting delete, okay? You can move the arrangement of a layer using these up-down buttons, like if you wanted to take layer 2 and move it up above layer 1, you can do that like that, okay? You can also move things down. So these buttons up here are your layer adjustment buttons. Now for me, the way I use layers goes all the way back to the way I work in Alias is, I'll usually have one layer that is dedicated to holding all of my curves, okay? And then I'll have another layer that's dedicated to holding surfaces, and then I usually have a couple other ones for different, as I start to make components, I'll save them onto different layers, and we'll get into all that. But for right now, I want to just take these curves off the default layer and put them onto my curves layer and hide them. So let's take a look at what's happened here. I changed the name of the first layer to curves, and now I've got a check mark that's next to the curves layer. That means that this is now the current layer that I'm working on, right? So if I draw another polyline, you can see my cursor's red, and that's because I'm now operating on the curves layer. It's my current layer that I'm working on. So if I want to go back to the default layer, I have to go hover over the default layer, right click on it, and go set current, okay? And that's going to bring me back to working on the default layer. So if I draw some more line work here, all right, it's black because it's on the default layer, okay? So the question becomes, how do I take these things and put them onto my curves layer? Highlight the curves you want to put on the curves layer, hover over the curves layer, right click, and go change object layer, and it's going to change the layer that these curves live on to whatever layer you're hovered over. Change object layer. Unclick and they all turn red. That's your indication that they're all on the red layer, which is the curves layer, okay? And then at this point, I'm just going to go here to this little light bulb, and I'm going to click on the light bulb, and that's just going to hide everything that's on that layer, okay? So this is fantastic, right? This is what we want. We want those curves to be saved, but we want them to be out of view, okay? So this little light bulb is your on-off as far as the visibility of that layer goes, okay? So I'm just going to turn it on for a second so I can get rid of some of the stuff that I drew in my example. All right, and I just want to save these two closed loops that we drew from the first video, okay? Otherwise I'm going to hide that, okay? So that's 4 minutes on just how to use the layers palette, okay? Just to recap, right? Look for the black check, wherever that is. That's going to show you the layer that you're currently working on. Other ways to tell what layer you're working on is to use the color coding, okay? In order to change the layer you're working on, you can right click on a layer and go set current. And that will set that layer to the current one that you're working on. So right now I'm currently on curves, set current on default, changes that, okay? We can use the light bulb to hide and show things on different layers, and we can use these layers to organize ourselves as we get ready to draw something else, okay? So now I'm all set, right? I've taken the curves, I know that they're there, I can turn them on and off. I've hid them on my curves layer, and I can get ready to draw again on my default layer, right? I'm actually going to shut this video down right here because I don't want to ramble on too much. We're already at 6 minutes. Tune into the next video where I promise you we'll start to draw some curves. Okay? Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.